Hello YouTube, this is Morgan, Airspeed Prime here at my next Sword Art Online 2 episode review. This one's going to be for episode 8, Bullet of Bullets. And overall this is a good episode. I don't think it's one of the best episodes because it is just, start of the Bullet of Bullet tournaments. We get the opening kind of bit where they're just kind of standing around, and we just kind of establish what the kind of atmosphere leading into the tournament is like. You do get a few nice scenes between Kirito and Sinon, and obviously the kind of cliffhanger is pretty nice. But definitely, it's not the kind of best episode of the arc. It really is an episode where like there's 2-3 good scenes, and the rest of them are just kind of like, okay, this needs to be here to get the series into the position it needs to be in, but not like amazing. So the first scene to talk about is definitely just Kirito and Sinon kind of, I suppose, meeting back up. We had them kind of addressed the emotional issues they're going to be dealing with during this tournament on the last episode, and then the episode before that was basically their battle. And so we know that Sinon Asada is really angry at Kirito just because of his attitude, and just he really managed to get under her skin, and she kind of doesn't really know why, because she's frustrated because she can tell that they're similar, that she can relate to him because of something that they've both done. And she honestly, I suppose, actually does like being around him as well. So there's some interesting stuff there, and she wants to be kind of very dismissive of him, but she can't bring herself to be that, I suppose, mean when he's around, because he is kind of so... I suppose the Kirito is actually fairly likable, because he just kind of comes up to her and is clueless about the tournament, and in her mind, the only reason she's really helping him is because her giving him the advice that he needs will guarantee that she gets to fight him again and potentially win this time. And kind of that's her big thing going into the tournament, that in her mind, Kirito is the player she wants to beat, and if he's taken out early on because he doesn't know what the nature of the game is, she doesn't get what she wants out of the tournament. So you kind of understand her reasoning for wanting to help, and also she is kind of beginning to kind of see him as a friend, and again, as I said, relate to him a bit more. We do get a pretty funny scene with Kirito where he kind of bumps into some guys, and everyone still thinks he's a girl. Obviously, he's only really told Sinon, and the two guys are really like scared of him because of how awesome he's been during the tournament. And instead of being just kind of like mean or anything like that to them, he just turns around and kind of acts the girl, and it's just like, cheer me on, guys. And I just kind of found that to be a kind of funny moment, as kind of basically the last joke I think they basically make about it during the tournament, that okay, he's kind of accepted it and is having a little bit of fun with it now, after initially he was like, I look like a girl, and it was a really kind of big issue. But the main focus, I think, in these early scenes is definitely has to be the scene when they're just sitting down, kind of having a drink together. And basically, obviously, she explains to him the nature of how the tournament works, and then she's about to leave, but he then kind of gets into what he really wanted to ask her about, and that's if she knows anything about Death Gun. Basically, he doesn't bring up the full nature of the mission that he's actually on, but inadvertently is kind of asking her about this. Who are the new players in this tournament? Because we know that he only appeared after the last tournament. He wasn't in the last tournament. So who's new? You're an expert at this game. Tell me. She tells him, and it's between like 3 players. I think like Gunner X, Sturban, and Pale Rider are like the kind of 3 new names really there. So we have kind of, okay, here's 3 players that it potentially is going to be. But for the most part, she's kind of a little bit suspicious of this, but at the same time, what does him knowing who the new players are really say about this? And so she begins to kind of probe and kind of ask him some questions about this, and eventually she kind of hits home that like, oh, is this related to why you were acting so weird earlier on during the preliminaries? And he kind of has to admit that it's true, and without telling her the full story, gives her enough information for her to assume that he's from Sword Art Online. In that the line that she says, what game are you from? What game did you play, and did this confrontation happen in? Is a kind of it's to me is a confirmation that she knows he's talking about SAO and doesn't want to come out and say it just in case it brings up some issues. And she knows herself just from her own experiences how tough it can be to bring up traumatic experiences. So that was a interesting scene that they haven't addressed it, but she's kind of aware that that's the truth. That she now knows kind of what his issue was more or less. We don't fully know exactly like how much does she know about the Sword Art Online incident, but being a kind of veteran player of basically a fairly big VMMORPG, she probably knows the SAO story, and so is kind of putting a lot of pieces together here. And it's interesting because without her even saying a lot, you can see that she understands kind of so much about the situation. Just this idea that he had to kill people in that game, and that's the way he's feeling right now. And for the first time so far, she can really see and relate to the fact that he's done something similar to me. He's basically going through a similar situation to what I am. And without the two of them actually saying to each other that, hey, you're just like me, and like having that big moment, you know that both kind of characters realize that they've both been through something. I think less so on Kirito's side. I don't think he realizes that Sinon's been through something similar, but he senses there's something there. And it's just a really interesting scene how their other anime probably would have kind of heavily hit this point home, like that both characters would clearly know that they have been through similar things. But because of the way this kind of relationship between these two characters has been developed, they haven't been telling each other the exact truth the whole time, and so they're kind of definitely building up to a moment where they kind of are just like both super honest to each other, and it does eventually all come out. So in that sense, the setup is actually quite unique. But yeah, it's just this idea that Kirito isn't telling her for sure I'm from SAO, but it's basically the only solution that there could be to this whole issue. Then the rest of the episode is just the start of the Bullet to Bullet tournaments. We see basically just to establish who the main players are, a couple of players get taken out very quickly, and then the main focus of the rest of the episode is basically just on this encounter on the bridge with Pale Rider, Dyne, Kirito, Sinon, and then Deathgun arrives later on. So first of all, the suspicion is that Pale Rider is Deathgun, because they don't know who he is, and he looks pretty amazing as a player. But they very quickly realize that's not the case, because Deathgun shows up basically just after Pale Rider kills Dyne, and so Deathgun has expertly taken out this amazing player with all these acrobatics, and there's some really nice kind of fight scenes actually taking place here. But the main thing that I kind of liked about this was that, okay, Deathgun doesn't just use that gun that he uses all the time. He actually has all these other weapons. Like, they established that basically he has this amazing sniper rifle that even Sinon doesn't know exists in the game. That she has her weapon, which is a very powerful regular sniper rifle, but the even rare kind of stun round sniper rifle that he has is something different. It's this silenced sniper rifle that is a really cool concept, and just the way that, oh, so that's what he does to kind of get across this character that he's going for, that he stuns them from super long range silently, and then comes up and finishes them off with his kind of handgun pistol thing. And while this is happening, Kirito is sneaking up at Sinon, who's watching this encounter in her sniping position, and I thought that was a kind of telling moment as well, just the fact that for her, she has been trying so hard to basically defeat Kirito the whole series basically, and he, if he wanted to, could have defeated her then and there. That the rivalry is so much her about him than the other way around, that at that moment you can tell that she's frustrated that she got defeated basically again by Kirito, even though he wasn't trying. He was just kind of trying to find someone kind of who could take the shot basically if needed to. And yeah, the main focus here is that definitely Kirito begins to freak out when he realizes what Death Gun is doing, and we just end with the cliffhanger. Xenon take the shot, shoot the guy in the cloak, and we just end with the unknown if the shot actually hits or what. Um, but the fact that Kirito now fully believes that because of everything that's happened in relation to SAO, that this guy probably can do something about killing someone in real life, and it's all going to kind of come out here. You can see how kind of shocked Sinon is by how serious he's being. So it's a pretty cool way to end the episode for sure. Just a really cool encounter just in this one place. And then they just get across that, okay, there's this whole satellite function to spot other players, but Kirito establishes that if you go underwater and take your gear off, you actually avoid that completely. So some interesting stuff set up in place. So yeah, that's the review. I'm going to end it there. There weren't too many scenes of like real amazing note to talk about. Just those couple I mentioned, mainly Kirito Sinon and then the big kind of climactic scene in the episode. But there's still a lot of really cool stuff to come in this arc, so I'm looking forward to the next couple of episodes. So thanks for watching the review, and bye.